Greetings, welcome, and thank you for clicking. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, encouraging your journey with Reiki, card reading, and coaching for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Ask the Stones, offering spiritual guidance and encouragement for life's challenging questions. Greetings, welcome, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Ask the Stones. As always, it is a true honor to have you join me. Our question in this episode comes from Sydney. I went to one of your Reiki sessions, and you told us images and messages you saw. I'm a Reiki too, and I don't see things or hear them either. Am I doing something wrong? What should I do to see images and get messages? Well, Sydney, thank you for this great question. This is an awesome question that lots of people have, lots of Reiki practitioners have. So thanks for bringing this up because no doubt other people will be interested in learning more about this as well. The first thing I want to say is thank you so much for coming to one of the Facebook Live Distant Reiki Healing ceremonies. I truly appreciate it. It is a real honor to conduct those ceremonies on or around the full and new moons in honor of the full and new moons for our growth and healing. So thank you, Sydney. It is a true honor always to conduct those ceremonies, and I'm so honored that you attended. So thank you. As far as the question of seeing images and hearing messages during Reiki, I also do want to say, as an aside, before I really jump into it, Sydney, is congratulations on your Reiki 2 attunement. Now, of course, I don't know how long it's been, so it may be a very belated congratulations, but that's okay. It's wonderful that you are on your Reiki journey where you are and that you are at level 2. So I want to send honor and congratulations to you for that. So wonderful, Sydney. So Sydney, you know, the first thing that I really want to encourage you with on this question is that no, there is nothing that you are doing wrong. When it comes to images and messages in Reiki, some people see them and get messages, some people don't. So some Reiki practitioners see things, hear things, smell things, sense things, and some don't. And there's no right or wrong with that. So please know, Sydney, that if you are not seeing or receiving messages, hearing things, feeling things, smelling things, whatever the case might be, there is nothing wrong with you or the sending of Reiki. So the first thing I would like to say, Sydney, to encourage you is you are not doing anything wrong. And there is nothing wrong with the way in which you are sending Reiki, what you are doing, or the Reiki that is coming through you. So please know that there is nothing wrong with what you are doing. Some Reiki practitioners see images, get messages, feel things, smell things, and some don't. And there is no right or wrong in that. So I want to encourage you to know that no, you're not doing anything wrong. And where you are on your Reiki journey with not seeing images or getting messages is absolutely okay and absolutely where you need to be. Reiki is Reiki is Reiki, which means that the Reiki that you send is Reiki. And so whether you have images or not, the Reiki is still going through. It's still doing its thing. And so if you don't receive messages or images, it doesn't mean that the Reiki coming through you is any less good than any other Reiki. So I really want to alleviate your fears on that and to encourage you, Sydney, to know that the Reiki that you are sending is just as valid as the Reiki that anyone else is sending, because Reiki is Reiki. So what can you do to see images and messages? Well, I do want to emphasize that seeing images and messages is not the right way to do things. And so when there's a question like this that says, what can I do to do this? It kind of suggests that not doing it is wrong. And so I'll talk about some ways that you can increase the possibility of that, Sydney. But I first want to encourage you that if you did nothing to try to increase those images and messages, that is absolutely okay too. So what I'm saying is, take, please, the pressure off of yourself to feel like this is something that you have to do. To feel like, in order to be a good Reiki practitioner, I need to see images and I need to pass those along to people and I need to get messages and I need to send them messages. No, and no. You do not need to do any of those things in order to be a valid Reiki practitioner, in order to be sending real, quote, real Reiki, and in order to be doing your job as a, quote, job, Sydney, as a Reiki practitioner. So please know that even though I'm going to suggest some things that you could do to increase the chances of seeing images and getting messages, it does not mean that this is better than not seeing them or not getting messages. Does that make sense, Sydney? I hope that makes sense, because ultimately, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it does not matter whether you see images or get messages or not, because the Reiki is still going to go where it needs to go for the highest good. The Reiki is still going to do no harm, and the Reiki is still going to go where it is wanted. So know that whether there are images or messages or not, Reiki is going to continue to do its thing. I think that so often when it comes to this idea of messages and images, we have our ego wrapped up in that. And you know, ego is such a dirty word. Spiritually speaking, you know, we really are so quick to jump on the ego and say how bad it is to have our ego in things. And I want to say that when it comes to this question and that feeling that need to send messages and to get images, that is very much a feeling of oftentimes pressure that you might feel like you are less than as a Reiki practitioner. And isn't that all about egoic types of things? You know, the idea of self-worth and the idea that, oh, if I don't give people images or messages, then it means that the Reiki isn't doing anything, and they're going to want messages and images, so I need to give them to them, and I need to meet this expectation of providing images and messages. That is very much a standpoint of feeling a sense of lack with our sending of Reiki, of feeling some uncertainties over our worthiness of being a Reiki practitioner. And so, Sydney, I really want to encourage you to work to release judgment of that, to work to release any feelings of a lack of self-worth that you might be feeling as a Reiki practitioner if you're not receiving messages and images. I want to encourage you to release any judgment that you might have of yourself, of feeling obligated to provide images and messages, and to know that whether you see them, hear them, or not, it is all okay. And you are no less a Reiki practitioner than any other Reiki practitioner. So, Sydney, I really want to encourage you, as challenging, as difficult as this is, to work to release judgment of yourself for any feelings that you might have of feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. So what I'm saying, Sydney, is to work to release judgment of your judgment of feeling less than. So it's okay if you feel these feelings of uncertainty. And it is okay if you are feeling, oh, maybe I'm not as good of a Reiki practitioner. This is something I should be doing. Why am I not able to do this? What's wrong with me? It is okay to be feeling those feelings of uncertainty and even lack in your Reiki practitioner experience. So I encourage you, Sydney, to work to release judgment of yourself in all of those ways. Judgment of the fact that you're not seeing images and hearing messages right now, and to release judgment of your judgment over that. So it is all okay. You know, when we judge ourselves, oftentimes we will beat ourselves up for the judging. And that's just more judging, right? So I want to encourage you to know that it is okay to have these questions and uncertainties and these worries about your sending of Reiki and being a Reiki practitioner, and to know that, yes, it is all okay. You are worthy. Your Reiki is just as Reiki as anyone else's Reiki that they are sending, because of course the Reiki is not coming from us, it's coming through us. And so because of that, Reiki is Reiki. So know that your Reiki is just as Reiki as any other Reiki practitioners. So that's my first encouragement for you, Sydney, is that this is all okay. I also really want to encourage you to honor where you are on your Reiki journey. Reiki truly is a journey. And where we are at one point on our journey is not where we were before and is not where we will be in the future. So what I mean by that, Sydney, is that you are at Reiki level 2. Well, in order to get to level 2, you had to first be at level 1. And in order to be at level 1, you had to first get your level 1 attunement. That's all part of the journey. That's all part of the Reiki experience. And that journey is so very individual. That journey is yours and yours alone. So the way in which you came to Reiki, the experiences that you've had with Reiki, the sensations, feelings, or not that you had with Reiki, where you are right now in sending Reiki to others as a level 2, sending Reiki to yourself, that all makes up your unique Reiki journey. It is all yours and only yours, which means that I think it's important for us to strive. Again, this isn't easy, but to strive to not compare our journey to anyone else's. So to not compare our Reiki journey with anyone else's. If someone says, oh yes, when I send Reiki, I see this, this, and this, and I feel this, this, and this. And you're saying, oh, I'm not like that at all. I'm no good. That comparison is really unfair to yourself, because that other practitioner's journey is their own. And you don't know, maybe they've only just recently started seeing images, or maybe in the future they will no longer see images, which is all okay in and of itself. And so to compare yourself to them and say, oh, they're seeing images and I'm not, well, yes, and that is okay, because you may very well be seeing images in the future yourself. And if you're not ever, that is okay too. So I think it is so very important for all of us who are Reiki practitioners, attuned to Reiki, who practice Reiki, to just honor that Reiki is a journey and that we all have our own unique journey with Reiki. And your journey is uniquely your own and not anyone else's. And to honor that and to praise that and to know that where you are is absolutely right where you need to be, and to release judgment even of that desire to be somewhere else on your journey. So it's okay to even want to be somewhere else on your journey, Sydney. So wow, lots of judgment releasing, which, as I mentioned, and as of course we all know as human beings, is not easy. So please be gentle with yourself, Sydney, as you strive to release judgment of yourself. Now, what is one way that you can release judgment of yourself, or work to release judgment of yourself in this process, is trust. Trusting that where you are is exactly where you need to be, exactly where you are meant to be at this time, and trusting that where you are right now is not where you are always going to be. I encourage you to look back on your Reiki journey so far and to recognize that right now you are not where you were before. And so you have already made progress on your journey. You are already at a different place from where you were previously, from where you were when you started your journey, even way back before you heard of Reiki. So honor that journey and recognize just how far you've come, and give gratitude for that, and give praise for that, and congratulate yourself for that. Trusting that you are where you are and it's not where you were before, and trusting that where you are right now is not where you will be in the future. Our Reiki journeys are ever evolving. And so to judge our whole Reiki journey based on where we are right now is completely unfair. I believe it's certainly unfair to ourselves, and I also believe it's unfair to Reiki in general. Just in that, I think Reiki, when we really open up to it, helps us, supports us in releasing judgment. I personally believe this is one of the greatest gifts of Reiki, is that it really does help us to release judgment. And so knowing that when we open up to it, it will help us to release judgment. can help us to release judgment of Reiki itself, if that makes sense, Sydney. So, if we are judging our Reiki journey, aren't we kind of in a sense judging Reiki and saying, I should be somewhere else along my Reiki journey. Come on, Reiki, let's get on it. Really, I think doesn't serve to honor the ways in which Reiki works in our own lives and the divine timing of it. And so just knowing that where you are right now is exactly where you need to be, and to work to not feel the need to force it, and to also release judgment of that desire to force it. So Sydney, when it comes to seeing the images, getting messages, I really do want to encourage you not to force it. There is no need to force this. As a matter of fact, oftentimes when we try to force the seeing of images, we are then passing that information along to the client, to the recipient, when it's not completely genuine. So we are maybe forcing the messages that aren't really there. And ultimately, that does a disservice to the person that we are sending Reiki to, because we're trying so hard to maybe show them that Reiki is working. See, look how it's working. I'm seeing images. It's really working because I'm seeing images. Or we are feeling obligated. Oh, this is something that they really want. And in order to provide good service, I need to give them what they want or what they expect and think they should be getting from it. I think when we do that, we do a disservice to the customer, to the client, to the recipient, the family, friends, plants, whatever we're sending Reiki to. Because ultimately, we're not honoring the unfolding of that experience. I use this analogy a lot, Sydney, in my discussions. The idea of a flower that's opening. And we can't force a flower to open. We can't pull apart the petals and make it open any faster. It has to open in its own time. And as frustrating as that can be sometimes, and as impatient as we can feel about that sometimes, to do so, to allow it to unfold in its own time, it honors the flower's own process. And so it's important for us to honor our own process, to honor the client's process, and to honor Reiki by allowing it all to unfold, allowing it to come in its own way, in its own time, and not feeling the pressure or the need to force it. So Sydney, I really want to encourage you to let this unfold. Let it happen. Let it be like a flower that is opening, and honor those petals, honor that flower's blooming process. Now, with all of that said, sure, there are some things that you can do in order to potentially increase your chances of receiving images and messages. I again want to stress, though, that when you don't, there is nothing wrong with that. Even if you can see images and get messages, there may come a time when you don't. And that's okay. For me in my sessions, I do see images. I do receive messages. Sometimes I feel things. Sometimes I get really hot. And someday I might not have any of that happen. There may come a point where I'm not receiving any images or getting messages, when I'm not feeling any sensations. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me as a Reiki practitioner. It does not mean that Reiki has abandoned me. It just simply means that I'm in a different place in my Reiki journey at that point. And that then may again change, So just honoring and acknowledging that it's all subject to change along our journey. As you walk a path, the scenery changes. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that journey. It just means that you've moved into new territory. And if you keep walking, the chances are pretty good that eventually you're going to have new and different scenery. So again, knowing that where you are is not where you will always be, including if you are seeing images and getting messages. I can tell you that for my own Reiki journey, Sydney, I did not always see images. Now, I will say that with the sending of distant Reiki, I actually almost always have, and they were very spontaneous. But it's been very different for me in person. I do not receive nearly as much information in person as I do with distant Reiki. And that's okay. I have no judgment of that whatsoever. That may change in the future. Maybe in the future, I will have a lot more messages and images with in-person Reiki. And maybe I won't. Maybe it will change to where I don't receive any messages or images with distant Reiki, but I do with in-person. And that's all okay. As you can tell, I'm not too worried about it. Nor do I worry about whether or not I'm going to receive images or messages when I conduct a session. My focus is instead on the sending of the Reiki. And so when I receive images and messages, oftentimes it is quite a surprise to me, even though it so frequently happens. I will still see images and get messages and say, whoa, that's interesting. Wasn't expecting that. Or I've never seen that before. So just knowing that when you sit down to send Reiki, if it's a distant session or an in-person one, that the focusing on the sending of the Reiki is all you need to focus on. And as a matter of fact, you don't even need to focus on that. All you need to do is to send the Reiki, and the Reiki will do what it needs to do. So in other words, Sydney, you can't mess it up. And you aren't messing anything up when you don't receive images or messages. So know that where you are is where you need to be. Know that what you're doing is great. Keep doing it, and trust in the process, and release judgment. Phew. So what can you do? Well, I do encourage you to let go, to surrender to Reiki and to the sending of Reiki. When we have this mindset of feeling obligated to see images and messages to send along to the recipient, we are really in a state of holding. It's kind of like this, Sydney. We are grabbing tightly to this idea, grabbing tightly to this desire. And when we hold on to something, when we clutch something in our hands, literally, our hands are full. And we cannot receive when our hands are full. We've got to put things down in order to receive. And so when we are holding very tightly to this expectation, it means that we aren't allowing things to just flow. We aren't allowing the ability to receive something else because we are holding on to this expectation. Indira Gandhi had this beautiful quote. She said, you cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. And so we cannot receive other people with a handshake. We cannot receive new energy. We cannot receive images and messages if we are clutching expectations and beliefs about how we have to see them. So I encourage you to release that expectation in order to surrender and let go. Surrender to the process. Surrender to Reiki. When we practice Reiki, when we have a client, what do we want for them? We want them to just let go and surrender and let Reiki do what Reiki does. Let it do what it's going to do. And it's the same thing for us as practitioners. It's important for us to release and let go and surrender and let Reiki do what Reiki does. So, firstly, when it comes to what can you do to increase your chances of seeing images and messages, Sydney, let go. Let go of that expectation. Other things that you can do, for many practitioners, and of course, as I noted, myself included, seeing images and messages, receiving messages, oftentimes comes much more easily with distant Reiki. And this is because, or at least I should say for me, I can't speak for every Reiki practitioner ever, but at least for me, this is because you can really focus in, just letting yourself go to the sending of the Reiki. At least the way that I send Reiki, where distant Reiki, where it is a very meditative kind of experience. Actually, when I send Reiki, distant Reiki, I oftentimes get into a very deep meditative state. And so with that, it is so much easier to let go and to allow things to just appear, disappear, come to you, to be open and accepting and not judging what comes through. So in a session, I might see some weird things and I might say, an umbrella? What the heck is this umbrella doing? While I'm sending Reiki, why is there an umbrella at the root chakra? And just releasing judgment of that. And rather than saying, what is up with this umbrella, and judging the umbrella, saying, oh, there's an umbrella. Okay, noted. Sometimes I'll get additional information along with the umbrella. So sometimes I will get a message about the umbrella and its meaning to pass along, but not always. And we really don't ever want to force the meaning and make up a meaning. So, some might see an umbrella and say, oh, that means it's going to rain. I better tell the client that they need to get their umbrella because it's going to rain. Whereas maybe the client has an association with umbrellas. And so by us forcing that connection, that association, we aren't receiving, opening up, and allowing the client to derive their own meaning from it. So when we receive those images and messages, it is important for us to not leap to make connections and associations that aren't there. So sometimes I will get messages along with that to pass along that, oh, this image is representing this or is conveying this message. And sometimes I'll just get images that I don't even know what it's all about. I get no further information and I don't push it. And there's the image, and that's all okay. So just releasing judgment of the images that we receive and the ways in which they come is also important. But with many practitioners, myself included, it is often easier to receive images and messages through distant Reiki. And this is also, during in-person Reiki, and again, this depends upon the way in which you practice. We all practice differently. No way is better than another. Remember, Reiki is Reiki. And so while the way that I send distant Reiki is that I sit and I do draw the symbols, and I do get into a very meditative state during that, but someone else is going to send distant Reiki, maybe by laying out crystals that represent chakras and moving around them, or setting up a table just like they would in person and moving around that table. So we all do it differently, and there is no one right or best way to do it. What's important is what resonates with you and what feels right to you, and to release judgment of that and allow the Reiki to move through you in the way that feels right to you. So no judgment of the way that anyone sends distant Reiki. That's the way that I send it, and is oftentimes a way that many Reiki practitioners will receive more images and messages. There's no distraction of moving around, making sure that I'm putting the hands in the right place, making sure that I don't trip as I move. So because of that, oftentimes practitioners will just have an easier, they're in a more receptive state. Because distractions are reduced. And so they have an easier time of receiving those images and messages. Another thing that I think really does assist with the sending of the messages and receiving of images in Reiki is, Sydney, everything that you do outside of Reiki. So your Reiki practice is actually not confined to the sending of Reiki. As a Reiki practitioner, we send Reiki, yes, and we also are Reiki practitioners. And so we aren't only sending Reiki, we can strive to live Reiki, to bring more mindfulness to our experiences, to strive to release judgment in all areas of our life, to increase our levels of compassion, to send light and love into the world in an increasing number of moments. Remembering the precepts, just for today, I will not anger. Well, I do have to say that when it comes to that, you can say just for this moment, because sometimes it ain't about today, it's about just please in this moment, that's where I need help. So just knowing that we can become better Reiki practitioners, better senders of Reiki by the things we do when we're not sending Reiki. So increasing our levels of kindness, compassion, love, gratitude, light outside of the sending of Reiki is going to help you to be a better Reiki practitioner. And that will increase potentially your chances of seeing messages and images, because doing all of those things is going to help you to release and let go, to trust and decrease judgment. So I want to encourage you, Sydney, to, outside of the sending of Reiki, ask yourself how you can bring Reiki into all aspects of your life, and how you can bring love and light, increase your vibration, and open up in all aspects of your life. showing gratitude and eating healthy and decreasing anger and negativity and all of those things. You know, those things can help us to be better Reiki practitioners, can help to raise our vibration, which can potentially help us to see messages and images, but again, not necessarily. And if that doesn't happen, that's all okay too. Another thing that you may consider, Sydney, is sending Reiki more frequently. I don't know how often you send Reiki. I don't know what your practice is like, but just sending it more often, including and importantly to yourself. So sending Reiki to yourself, don't forget yourself when you are sending Reiki. Can assist with the deepening of your Reiki experience and take you to a different place on your Reiki journey. So just increasing practicing Reiki can help. Now you are at Reiki level 2. You may want to go on to Reiki level 3. That may deepen your practice and increase the chances of seeing images and getting messages, but again, not necessarily. And I always encourage everyone that, Sydney, if Reiki level 3 does not resonate or call to you at this time, that's okay. Remember, your Reiki journey is your own, and so if you don't feel called to seek additional training, to expand your practice with additional master attunements or any of that, that is all okay. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you are less than as a Reiki practitioner. It's just where you are on your journey right now, and that is okay. And if that master level resonates with you and you really are interested in that, that may increase your ability to see images and receive messages. But again, no guarantees. And if it doesn't, that is all okay too. So Sydney, you know, those are just some ways. Of course, there are plenty of other ways. I think personally, the real way, the one way that I want to encourage and emphasize that I know has made a big difference in my own personal practice is just increasing my capacity for love and surrender, light, and all of those things that I do outside of sending Reiki, all of those things that I do outside of Reiki sessions. To me, those are the things that really move me along on my Reiki journey and that really help me to be a better Reiki practitioner in service to my clients. And so that is what I focus on, and I let Reiki do Reiki. So I focus on bringing the love, I focus on increasing compassion, I focus on being more grateful, and I let Reiki do its thing. I get out of the way and I let Reiki. And that may be helpful for you. And again, if it's not, no judgment. I offer it up as something that works for me, but not everything resonates with everyone, and that's all okay too, Sydney. You know, Sydney, I'm going to send Reiki to your Reiki journey. And everyone, I'm going to send Reiki to all of us, whether we are Reiki practitioners or not. You know, whether we are Reiki practitioners or not, I think it's important for all of us to just open up, surrender, let go, to strive to let go of expectation. I think really that's one of the great gifts at the center of this question, is working to release expectation and to stop holding so tightly to that and to just let go and let come what comes. And so I'm going to send Reiki to all of us for the releasing of judgment, for the releasing of expectation, and to the surrendering of what is. Oh, thank you so much. So please do, as always, join me, if you so like, in taking 3 deep cleansing breaths. All right, great. Sydney, thank you so much. So, Sydney, I saw some very clear images for you. And if I hadn't seen anything, that's okay too. But immediately I saw the image of an anchor. And the encouragement here, Sydney, is to release that this question that you have, this challenge that you have, is really not a challenge. It's only being perceived as a challenge. And it's a feeling like it's anchoring you down. It's weighing you down and even holding you back on your Reiki journey. So there's a real encouragement here for you, Sydney, to pull up that anchor. Pull up that anchor so that your boat can sail, so that you can move forward, so that you can make progress. Sometimes we have anchors in the water and we don't even realize that we do. You know, if you think about it, Sydney, and everyone, an anchor is under the water. We can't see it. And so unless we remember that we have put the anchor down or know that it's there, we might set sail and wonder why we're not going anywhere. What is happening? Why is my boat not moving? Why am I not progressing? Oh, right. I think I have that anchor down. Yeah. So just checking to make sure that you don't have your anchors down. And when you find an anchor down, pulling it up. And if you do have an anchor down, recognizing that you do. And just knowing that if you want to move forward, you've got to pull up some anchors. So Sydney, just an encouragement here to pull up this anchor so that you can move forward. I also saw the image of an orange. Beautiful, bright orange. And the message along with the orange was that when we have an orange, we need to peel it. We need to take off its covering in order to get at what's inside. And so an orange is not all that it appears, right? We need to peel back the layers in order to get to the good stuff, the stuff that we really want, the essence of an orange, the heart of an orange. And so really the encouragement here, the message here was very clear, Sydney. It was just of an acknowledgement and a recognition that this is a multi-layered process and that it's going to take some time. It's a process, peeling away an orange. By the way, sometimes peeling an orange is a bit of a challenge. They have special orange peelers for that. Personally, I just bite the skin. But hey, there are special orange peelers. And so it is a process. And to know that there are multiple layers, and we peel away the top layer, the rind of the orange, and then we get the orange itself. And what do we got to do? We still got to peel away all of those wedges and take that apart, take the orange apart once it's open. So just an acknowledgement and a recognition that it is a process, an honoring of that process. You know, we don't look at an orange and say, what's wrong with this orange? There's a problem with this orange. No, we know that we need to peel the orange to get down to the edible layers. So just knowing that there are layers to this process of your Reiki journey. And finally, Sydney, there was the image of a giraffe. There was a giraffe. There was no more information attached to the giraffe, just there it was. And wouldn't you know, this is quite an example of getting images and images and not needing them to have messages attached to them, and sometimes they just don't. So I'm going to pull a Celtic Dragon Tarot card for you, Sydney, to encourage you for any other messages that we might receive or have on your Reiki journey. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so Sydney very clearly has popped out 2 Celtic Dragon Tarot cards. Number 1, we've got the 4 of Swords. Now you can't see this card. I'll describe it to you. We have a dragon lying down, sleeping. There are 4 swords there. Now, what I'm getting from this card, Sydney, is that it's okay to be where you are on your journey and to feel like you are paused, maybe even taking a nap. That is okay. When you wake up, the swords will still be there. So when we move along our journey, if we take a break, sit on a stone, climb a tree, take a nap in the branches, and when we wake up, we're still on the journey. So we are right where we left off. So know that if you feel like you are paused, if you feel like you are taking a nap, that is right where you need to be. And when you wake up, all of the swords are still going to be there for you to choose from. So know that where you are, even if it feels like you are paused, taking a nap, that is all okay. If you need to take a seat on a rock and take a break on your journey, that is absolutely okay. That's part of the journey too. And the other card that has come out for you is the World. This is an exciting card. What a wonderful card for you, Sydney. You know, what I'm getting from this card is just the encouragement to know that, Sydney, I have right now the image of a path just unfolding before you. And to know that the whole world is there before you. The whole world is available to you, and the whole world is within you. And so there is nowhere that you need to look outside of yourself for the answers. And there is nowhere that you need to look outside of yourself for Reiki guidance and moving along on your Reiki journey, that it is all within you. And so the world, everything you need, is inside of you. I'll tell you quite plainly, point blank, Sydney, you sure don't need me. So just some encouragement here, Sydney, to know that everything you need is always already inside of you. You've got the whole world inside of you. Beautiful and wonderful. Thank you for those messages. Sydney, thank you so very much for this question. This is a common question, so please know that you are not alone. Any other Reiki practitioners listening, please know that if you are not seeing images, getting messages, you are right where you need to be. You are not alone. You are not the only one, and you are in good company. Someday you may even be in good company with me. Like I said, who knows? Maybe there will be a time when I'm not seeing images or getting messages, and that is all okay too. The Reiki is still doing the Reiki thing. So thank you all so much for doing your thing by tuning in and listening. I am, as always, so honored to have you join me and so very excited because I've got some awesome things coming up for this end of the year and into the new year. So if you are not already, I encourage you, please do get on my mailing list because you'll get all of the notifications of upcoming awesomeness like workshops and things like that. You'll also get, when you sign up for my mailing list, my Life Change Encouragement Kit that offers the Life Change Encouragement book called Standing Like the Stones. So it is all about encouraging you during your life changes and provides some tips, the things you absolutely must know about weathering, withstanding, surviving, and even thriving during life changes. The kit also includes the life change, my life change meditation, and Affirmations with Native American Style Flute. So I offer that up to you in the hopes that it assists you and supports you during any of your life changes, challenges, and transitions. As always, I send you blessings and best wishes for your journey. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ask the Stones. If you have a question for Ask the Stones, please send me an email at christian@standingstoneshealing.com or connect with me on Facebook at Standing Stones Healing. Thank you, and best wishes for your journey.